That would
We're recording.
to see that too.
Meeting, please come to order. Barbara, please call the roll.
We have Commissioner Levine, Berard, McLean Hill, and Vasquez present.
Thank you. This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. I have two brief opening remarks. First, to warmly welcome back Commissioner Jill. I was trying to think of something clever to say, but you look healthy.
Thank you.
And fabulous, and it's really great to have you back with us.
Thank you very much.
And my other opening remark, which hopefully is an unnecessary one, is to remind everybody to vote today.
Yes.
Public comment. Any speaker cards?
No speaker cards for item 2.
Okay, General Manager.
Thanks. A couple items. First, as you know, the Chief Administrative Officer functions, we've separated in 2 different tracks. One to just look at how IT interrelates with all our operations from a business standpoint, and Donna will continue with that, and kind of all the other areas that she was looking at before, and customer service and customer relations will be handled by our new CAO, which is Brad Hudson, if you'd stand up, and Brad will handle all of those.
Great.
The next I'd like to talk about, I attended an APPA board meeting. I'm now on the board of the American Public Power Association. LA kind of pulled back a little bit from that, but it's very important. They look at things like tax-exempt debt, and there'll be 2,000 organizations all on the same page supporting the retention of tax-exempt debt. And I'm also wanted to let you know we're also on the board of the Large Public Power Council, which is the top 25 municipal power agencies, and we deal there with things like mutual aid and ensuring we're all staying on top of what large power utilities face. And I'd like to turn it over to Reiko to talk about an event that we sponsored last week here from the American Public Power Association.
Sure. So last Monday, for a day and a half, we hosted the American Public Power Association Mutual Aid Working Group for the 2018 Public Power Regional Exercise. There were 57 participants, including other utilities across the nation. We had multiple states represented here. We had Mutual Assistance Association representation here. We had federal and state agencies, and we simulated a federally declared disaster involving a major flooding event in the California region. It was an opportunity to examine areas where disaster preparedness could be improved within our organizations, and we came across with some lessons learned on that, and it was a very successful event. Put LA kind of on the map and showed some of the resources. We toured the Emergency Operations Center. They got an understanding of how the city of LA works, how we're organized, how we respond to disasters, and the key role that LADWP plays in that. So there were also some water agencies, Metropolitan Water District, California Department of Water Resources, that also participated in the event.
Excellent.
That's all.
Thank you. Comments from commissioners? Any comments?
I have so much to say that I'm not going to say anything.
Welcome back, Jill. Thank you for returning.
Thank you.
I have missed you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ratepayer advocate.
We have comments on.
By the way, welcome to an additional term.
There is an additional step.
Oh, okay. Well,
confirmation of appointment.
Prospective welcome.
We'll have comments briefly on item 14, which is addressed in the memo.
Okay.
And other items as appropriate if questions arise.
Great. Thank you. Discussion with neighborhood council representatives on any neighborhood council resolution or community impact statement filed with the city clerk which relate to any agenda item listed or being considered on this agenda for the Water and Power Board.
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any neighborhood councils on the items on today's agenda.
Okay, thank you. So as a courtesy to those of you who are here for various agenda items, we are going to slightly alter the process, and we're going to see which items can be pulled on the consent, which items can stay on the consent calendar versus which items will be pulled at this point in the agenda rather than waiting until after the reports are done, so that in case your item is consented to, you will not have to stay here unless you're dying to hear the rest of the discussion on other items. So on items, we want to, at item 7, we'd like to pull here at item 7, I'd like to pull item 22 until after the management report, which is related to that item. So 22 will not be among those eligible for consent, but those which are eligible for consent, unless any commissioner wishes to pull any of them, are items 10 through 21 and 23 through 29. Do any commissioners wish to pull any of those items from consent?
I'd just like a presentation on item 14.
Item 14, okay. Any others? Do I hear a motion on those items which are not pulled from consent? Those that were pulled were 14 and 22 only, and 30 and 31 aren't eligible. So this would be a vote to approve items 11 through 13, 15 through 21, 23 through 29.
So moved.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. Okay, those are approved. The items still to be heard are 14, 21, 30, and 31. But before we hear those, we will revert to reports. And that sends us back to management reports, item 8A, 2017 Power Integrated Resource Plan.
Thank you. For this item, for the power system, we will have Eric Montag, the Senior Manager for Planning, as well as James Barner and Jay Lim, who are in charge of the Integrated Resource Plan and the Strategic Long-Term Resource Plan both.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Eric Montag. I'm the Senior Manager responsible for the Strategic Initiatives and Resource Development Groups. With me is James Barner. He's the Manager of the Resource Development, and Jay Lim, newly appointed Supervisor of the IRP Group. So congratulations, Jay. They will talk you through this year's submittal. It's the first one. So from there, I'm going to not steal James's thunder. I'm going to turn it over to James.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. First, I'd like to give a little background on why we have a 2017 Power Integrated Resource Plan before you for approval. This is item 22. This came about because of Senate Bill 350, which had a target of RPS of 50% by 2030, and that superseded SB 21X, which had 33%. It also had a requirement for a doubling of energy efficiency of building and conservation savings in electricity and natural gas end uses. But the third point is that major change in the SB 350 was to require utilities, larger utilities, utilities with more than 700 gigawatt hours or 700 million kilowatt hours, larger utilities like ourselves, that have 26 billion kilowatt hours, to provide a integrated resource plan. And this was to make sure that the utilities were complying with SB 350. SB 100 recently increased the RPS to 60% by 2030. So that was a recent change that's not reflected here. The next slide is showing our strategic planning process. So this is a little bit different than you're used to. What you're used to seeing is it used to be called the IRP, and now we've renamed it to the Power Strategic Long-Term Resource Plan. And this was approved by the general manager and management on, I think it was about May of 2017. So this was the larger plan. We renamed it the Strategic Long-Term Resource Plan, and we expanded the time horizon of this plan from 2037 as the final date, so it was a 20-year plan. And we expanded it to a plan that went out to 2050. And the reason for that was to align it with more in line with the AB 32 long-term GHG emissions goals of 80% reduction of emissions by 2050. It was also to allow us to incorporate the results of other studies, like the 100% study that we're working on, into this document as well. So that's the major change there. What you have before you is a we've now called this the Integrated Resource Plan. That's because the CEC uses that term, and this is a 20-year plan. This is a snapshot of the 2017 Strategic Long-Term Resource Plan. It's very specific on the guidelines, requirements that go into it, and it includes the recommended case from the 2017 SLTRP, we call it. The requirement for SB 350 is to have the board approve it by January 1st, 2019, and then we have 3 months to submit that to the CEC after that point. And the assumptions that go into the Strategic Long-Term Resource Plan and then into the Integrated Resource Plan, those are assumptions that go through our management. It's vetted internally by our subject matter experts, and our division heads approve these assumptions, and that has, our RPS requirements, our gas pricing, our IPP changes that have occurred, or costs, also our hydro as well, and so forth. So the next slide is showing our future strategic planning process. So this is for 2018, 2020. So next year, the SLTRP will include a public outreach process. The 2017 did not. The 2016 Strategic Long-Term Plan did have a public outreach process. So we do it on even years. So this 2018 SLTRP we're currently working on right now, that will include the results of the OTC study into that plan. And it will have updated assumptions. We will be going to the public. At first, we go to a renewable advisory group for the SLTRP, and we'll be meeting with them the week of the 26th of November. And then we'll have a follow-up meeting with a lot of our modeling results after that point, after the first of the year. And then we'll be going through a series of public outreach events out to the public to introduce the cases that we've modeled and show them results for that. In 2020, the SLTRP will include the 100% renewable study, which will conclude mid-year 2020. And that'll be incorporated into that document. The IRP that you're approving today, or considering approval, this document is required to be produced every 5 years by the CEC. So once this is approved this year, there won't be another one required for five more years. DWP will continue to refine its SLTRP on an annual basis between IRPs.
Can you repeat that, please?
Sorry. This document will be is required every 5 years, starting in 2019. So
Okay.
the next one will
Required
be
by what agency?
by the California Energy Commission.
Okay. And, okay, thank you.
DWP will continue to refine its SLTRP on an annual basis between IRPs that are produced for CEC submittal every 5 years, and will take action to translate the general plan set forth in the IRP into the acquisition of specific generating resources and transmission rights. Here is a timeline of the implementation. SB 350 is approved in 2016. There was a draft IRP guideline that went out in May 2017. It was subsequently finalized in August 2017, and there was a second edition that we recently received that had some addition modifications to some of the reporting requirements. And then the final adoption date of January 1st, 2019. And now I'm going to turn this over to Jay. He's going to go over more of the specifics of the plan.
Good morning, Commissioners. Next, I'll be talking about the main requirements of Senate Bill 350. The primary goal was to reduce the state's emissions to 40% below 1990 levels by 2030. And to do so, there's three main elements: the renewable portfolio standard, energy efficiency, and vehicle electrification. And as required, the utility is required to submit a integrated resource plan once every 5 years to the Commission to indicate our plans for doing so. And so the next 4 slides I'll be covering will be the visual representation of the CEC required standardized tables. So these tables are very detailed tables that indicate all our positions, and I will show these graphically as some of the commissioners have already seen some of these charts. Some of the data that you guys have in your package have been redacted because of sensitive market information as well as critical energy infrastructure, and we can discuss that in closed session if necessary. So the next slide, many of the commissioners have been aware of, is our greenhouse gas emissions forecast. So this data is required to submit to the CEC as part of the 2017 Integrated Resource Plan. So a couple of key things to note is that in 2017 we were already 50% below the state's below 1990 levels, which is above and beyond the state's goal of 40% below 1990 levels. By 2030, we're expected to be 77% below 1990 levels, well ahead of the state's target. And the CARB's projected target is between 2.6 million metric tons to 4.6 million metric tons, and we're well within that planning range at under 4 million metric tons. So this slide indicates our renewable portfolio standard in terms of our forecast over the next 20 years. I want to emphasize that we have a strategic approach to diversify our resources in terms of solar, geothermal, and wind. And in the short term, we're actually over complying with the renewable portfolio standard. And by 2030, we're expected to be 55% renewable portfolio standard by 2030. And this is above the SB 350 goal of 50%. And with the recent passing of SB 100, this year's 2018 Strategic Long-Term Resource Plan will be incorporating Senate Bill 100 of 60% by 2030 and 100% zero carbon by 2045. And we'll also feed in the once-through cooling study. And as well as having public outreach, and we're also modeling a 100% renewable portfolio standard as required by the City Council motion. So those are the main elements of the two main tables. Also part of the tables is the energy efficiency cumulative savings. Since the year 2000, we've spent about $575 million on energy efficiency, and we continue to ramp up our energy efficiency targets. The last potential study went out to 2027, so it was from 2017 for 10 years out to 2027, and our next energy potential study in 2020 will further inform our targets through 2030. In addition to energy efficiency, one of the other main requirements of the SB 350 is to report on transportation electrification, and this table indicates how much emissions we would save from the transportation sector if we were convert from petroleum vehicles over to electric vehicles. So over the course of through 2030, we're expected to save about 5.3 million metric tons of emissions that we would absorb from the transportation sector and shift that over to the electric sector. So our goal of 580,000 vehicle equivalents by 2030 is above the state's mandate. At that time, the IRP was produced, it was double the target, and now with the recent passing of the governor's zero emissions vehicle goal, it is still above that target. So this chart indicates the dependable capacity of our resources. So if the commissioners are familiar with the duck curve, this is basically how much resources we need to meet our net peak load, which is the hottest day out of 10 years, the 1 in 10 peak. And these are all our resources stacked up. And we see a shortfall in 2027, but we address this annually through the integrated resource planning process, now the strategic long-term resource planning process every year. And likely in 2018, in this process, we'll be considering clean energy alternatives such as energy storage, demand response, and additional renewables to meet this capacity shortfall. So this table is required to be submitted as part of the 2017 Integrated Resource Plan package. And the last table is the energy table as part of the standardized tables, which indicates our expected energy forecast over 20 years. And we can see a huge ramp up in energy efficiency, renewables, and energy storage. We'll be reaching 55% in 2030 and 65% in 2036, along with 1,500 megawatts of local solar by 2035. We'll have about 404 megawatts of energy storage by 2025 and 580,000 EV equivalents by 2030. And we see a ramp down in our fossil resources, including coal and natural gas. And this year we'll be modeling a 100% scenario that will likely ramp up our clean energy resources even further. So with that, we'd like to take any questions that the board may have.
Thank you very much. Are there questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Barad.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. Could you give more detail on your plans for public outreach, and also how you're working with the transportation sector? What do you mean by that, and who are you working with, and what are you trying to accomplish there?
So I'll address the public outreach process. So every other year we do meet with an advisory group for the strategic long-term resource plan. And this is made up of major stakeholders, mayor's office, city council, environmental groups, our a customer base, and several other groups as well. But we meet to basically ultimately come up with the cases that we will evaluate, the scenarios, the resource scenarios that we will evaluate. Then once we come up with an agreed list of cases, we go back and model those cases. We bring them back to the advisory group, and then we show the results. At that point, they make comments. We capture those comments. We then go out to the public in a series of meetings. So we have 3 major meetings, one in Wilmington, one in Pacoima, and one downtown. So we reach out to these communities to get further comments on the resource cases before we make a determination of the recommended case. And then we capture those comments and put that into the IRP of the major themes that we heard from the community.
Before you go on, do you include neighborhood councils or neighborhood council alliances in your public outreach?
Yes, so we typically will meet with the neighborhood council alliance to give them an update on just like we would give to the public as well.
Because in essence, that is the public.
Yeah, true. And so we have a series of Van Nuys Neighborhood Council. There's a number of councils here, and the MOU committee will be meeting with them as well. So we'll be meeting with all the major neighborhood councils.
In addition, we're adding the advisory group members as well to this. So it's going to be everything we've done in the past, plus all those members of our 100% study. They're going to be invited to this as well, so we're broadening it out even further.
I'd like to suggest that you contact the Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Council, which includes 34 neighborhood councils. It's the largest neighborhood council alliance in the city, and it represents every neighborhood council in the San Fernando Valley. And that group meets once a month.
Okay, we will do that, and we did have it on our schedule.
They are on our target.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll definitely be meeting with them. As far as the
We work through Joe Romalo's group, who identifies all these very important stakeholders.
In regards to your question about the electric transportation, we recently ramped up our programs. Initially, we had a $500 rebate for the EV chargers, and we expanded that to offer a $450 used EV, so that would help out the disadvantaged community. And we're also ramping up our commercial charger with a $5,000 rebate for commercial chargers. And in addition to that, we have a robust program where we're working with other entities such as Metro to help them out with the electric buses, working with the Port of LA electrification as well as the LAX electrification. So we have a robust business plan that's very detailed, and we can provide additional information if you need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have some additional questions regarding to what Commissioner Barat just asked. When you design this presentation, who do you have in mind as your audience?
Well, this is based on the strategic long-term resource plan. So this is meant to go to the public ultimately.
Okay.
And it would be a very similar presentation. We actually go into more detail because we have more time, and we look at different case scenarios. Here we just have one, the recommended case. It's just going to the CEC. This is just a regulatory document, but we would expand that further to go out to the public.
So this presentation goes to our customers.
Not the specific presentation, but something like very much like that. We'll go out to the customers as part of the strategic long-term resource plan.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I think a key point is we really have two processes going on. We have the strategic long-term resource plan that is our LA, Los Angeles, stakeholder-driven. What does our future resource mix look like? Then we have a regulatory requirement on top of that from the California Energy Commission that we condense that and provide a much abbreviated version. They don't need all the detail that our stakeholders need. So this version here is meant to meet the regulatory requirements of the CEC, which is very different than the process we will use locally.
Okay, excellent. Because if this is going to be included in the largest stakeholder presentation, I will caution you about this presentation. I have endless conversations, emails, complaints, Facebook posts, all sorts of text messages from random people I don't really know, asking about our, not just outreach, but what we present to people, because this terminology, as a lot of us understand, is not very digestible for the everyday. And this is not even for the everyday, even for someone that is involved and that someone that maybe wants to better understand how to participate in the process. This is very, very complex. So I invite you to revise this and when you utilize these presentations and some of this information for the stakeholders, to make it so that it's stakeholder friendly. Because the perception is that, the perception out there, not per se my opinion, is that we made these presentations difficult so that people can understand them. Is that the case?
No.
I mean, just to jump in here, I'm very uncomfortable with this entire process.
And frankly, from my perspective, there isn't a whole lot of effort put into even informing and presenting to the commission itself. It's, as I sit here, I'm sort of inclined to not move this item forward just because I haven't had enough time with it and don't believe that there's been much effort put in making sure that I understand and I'm comfortable with it. And if this is sort of a reflection of the amount of time and energy that we put into informing the community at large, I'm just concerned. So, I hear both my commission colleagues making, very, I think, relevant and significantly important points about how we go about and how seriously we take the community outreach piece of this. And I have lots of questions around that. Public meetings, okay. I'd be interested in sort of how many people show up. What do you actually consider success? What's your target? What are the platforms you're using? Getting people out to meetings is probably the least effective way of engaging in community outreach if you're trying to do that in a sincere fashion. I understand the distinction between what you do for regulatory filing over and against what you do to, to go through the laborious process of actually informing stakeholders, and there's a whole variety of stakeholders. So the environmental groups are one thing, sort of basic community groups are another. When you say you hold 3 meetings, this is a big city. So 3 meetings in the specific locations that you pointed out don't really impress me much, especially if that's, I assume that that's not your primary tool for community outreach, because if it is, then it just doesn't really achieve much. But on a whole lot of levels, I have a lot of concerns about this as I sit.
So we do have a much more comprehensive presentation when we go out to the public. It has multiple case scenarios. We try to simplify it as much as we can. We do work with Joe Romalo's office to try to simplify the presentation, try to make it as digestible as possible. Unfortunately, it is a complex subject, planning a power system. But we do try to make it, more entertaining and digestible for the public. And we do have those series of meetings with the neighborhood councils, as well as those 3 meetings. And they're well attended. The last time we did it in 2016, we had a very good turnout in Pacoima and Wilmington, especially. And a lot of outreach to environmental organizations and community organizations to get their people out there to the meeting. So I think they turned out really well the last time, and I expect the same in the future.
Would you like a more detailed briefing?
Yes.
So maybe you guys could go back to the drawing boards a little bit and take a look at the longer briefing that you put together for the other audiences, and come back and provide a lengthier briefing for those commissioners who don't feel that this is sufficient.
Yes, we can certainly do that.
Is there a time frame at which point this needs to be moved along?
Was it April? April 2019. It has to be submitted to the CEC, so we do have time.
So there's some time.
Yeah, we have 2 months.
So why don't we, either at the next meeting or the meeting after, have a more comprehensive presentation?
We can do that. Very good.
Good. So in that case, I would recommend that we defer item 22.
Thank you.
Does that require a motion?
You can defer it as the board president.
Okay, thank you. It's deferred. Thank you very much. Okay, item 8B, improving the customer journey.
Everybody heard it?
Good morning. Still morning? Still good. Good morning. Marty Adams, Chief Operating Officer. Today we just want to give you an update on where we are with our customer journey mapping. This is the third presentation to the board on this. We had our first one in about a year ago in October and then back in March. And we're looking at trying to really develop more of a systematic and repeatable customer experience so that folks, I know most of you as board members have, I know Dave as well, got a lot of calls from the public, from the mayor's office and other folks asking about how to speed up the process, why a developer isn't getting his meters installed, how come no one's getting a call back, people don't know where they stand in line. And you may recall our slide with the picture of chutes and ladders. We're trying to get out of that game and to make sure that we have something that's predictable for our customers. We are actively working in this arena. Sharon's going to go through the details of what we've been doing just to let you know, but we have a lot of irons in the fire in this, and tomorrow morning we're speaking at the Building and Industry Association to let them know about some of the advancements we're making to hopefully help them out in the future. One of the key things is that we're really trying to get a kind of a common sense of purpose and common thinking across the whole department so that water and power act similarly in how we approach our customers. We're also bringing supply chain services and other organizations in as well. And then, really the whole goal here is to really focus not just on what we do in terms of providing water and power, but really the manner in which we do it and the customer relationship. As we talk about our approach and progress, we're going to hit the first slide here. Thank you. There we go. You will note that I'm not going to make any claims that progress is complete by any stretch. We still have issues that go on. There are a lot of challenges right now. We continue to staff up our areas that are customer facing, especially in terms of new services and with the building crunch that we're seeing in LA right now, there's a huge number of orders coming in for installations of new water and power services. So we're doing our best to try to step up and meet those challenges, and at the same time trying to use this process to get better information to our customers so that they know what to expect. They know where they stand. This life is not a mystery for them, and that they have something they can predict for the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sharon and let her go ahead and tell you where we are.
Thanks, Marty. My name is Sharon Grove. I'm the Assistant General Manager of Customer Service, and I'd like to give you the most recent update on transforming the customer experience. So why does delivering a great customer experience matter? We are already providing safe and reliable water and power to our customers. But customer expectations are continuing to rise. They're dealing with companies like Amazon, Google, where they have a lot more fluid experience and relationship with those companies. When it comes to water and power, our customers now expect us to give them service and value, not just electrons and drops of water. So now that we've become a value proposition business, we really have to change the way we approach common business processes. So think for a moment about a great customer experience that you've recently had. For me, a great customer experience is being able to call a company and have something happen very quickly and very easily and hang the phone up and not realize that I really went through any effort to get what I needed to get done. So fundamentally, putting the customer first is at the heart of our strategic plan. More importantly, it's the right thing to do. The characteristics shown here can lead, and will lead to a great customer experience. Customer journey management is not a new concept. Companies have been doing this for a long time, but utilities were a little late to the customer journey management party. They've been doing it really, some utilities, since the inception of the deregulation of the distribution and the generation and the retail portion of the utility business back in about 2000. But we've been working on this for a couple years at the Department of Water and Power. We're gaining ground. When I went to a recent utility conference in Denver, this was very much part of the central discussion at the entire conference. So this is really mainstream now in the utility industry. So we are well on our way here at the Department of Water and Power. Over the last 2 years, we have scoped out about 75 different customer journeys. There are hundreds. There's hundreds and hundreds of customer journeys here at the department that we need to really ultimately look at. But for right now, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves because we really want to get traction. 25%, about 33% of what we've identified, we've either completed or we're actively working on. So examples of different, can you guys hear me all right? Okay.
Yep.
Examples of completed or in progress journeys are the construction and renovation that Marty was referring to, water quality reporting, turf replacement, high-low bills, EV charger rebates, unplanned power outages, and we're now working on supply chain services. And we've identified in the future journeys such as start service, stop service. We actually have a process where I meet with senior executives, every month, every 2 months, and validate that we are working on the right journeys. So we've got a systematic approach. This is not just being nicer to our customers or just trying harder. We have a very systematic approach, and it's working. We have a disciplined framework. We remain self-critical and self-aware about our process, and we want to guarantee that our customers receive the attention that they deserve. We are teaching our employees how to manage their everyday life in thinking about the customer. So key points to remember is we have to document what happens when a customer interacts with us. It's a collection of interactions. We take a specific customer, so it's not just easy to take one journey and map it for all customers. We have to think of, is it a residential customer? Is it a small business customer? We have to think about the way that they choose to interact with us. Do they want to go to the website? Do they want to call us? Would they prefer an in-person interaction? And so based on that, those are all different customer journeys that we have to consider. So this is a difference between working, and I've used this analogy before, dealing with what's on stage for the customer versus what's behind the curtain. So by thoroughly mapping the customer journey, we can make sure that we address every distinct customer touch point that they might consider.
Commissioner Brad, you may be very familiar with some of these issues. I know you've used our turf rebate. We've gone through the washing machine, I believe, and I know you said questions, who do I call, what do I do, where's the paperwork? So this is specifically toward trying to make that process easy for everybody.
Okay, so just again to go through the customer lens, and we're working through the customer lens. We want to evaluate the customer journey. We want to view it through the customer lens. Why, what can we do to make sure that we're giving our customers the benefit of industry best practice? Our teams that we form, and remember there's 25 teams right now, they include folks who live these experiences every day, CSRs, ESRs from the Connection Center, liaisons with electric trouble, electric vehicle and solar specialists and engineers that design our systems. And so all of those people are at the table discussing the customer journey. Their challenge is to cut through the clutter so that we really can address specifically what the customer is going to experience in working with us. And we also, of course, validate with our customers. It's a very essential element of what we do. We want to validate what the customer feels and what their reaction is. We use focus groups, we call them, we do interviews. We want to make sure that what we think their pain points are truly their pain points. And of course, by the way, validate can mean many different things to many different customers. And then we improve and we monitor. There's no final report on a customer journey. When you establish a customer journey, you have to manage it. It can change over time. Technology changes, expectation changes. We really have to constantly be aware. So we have metrics, we monitor the results, we set standards, and we continue to expand our voice of the customer by those transactional surveys. And we're making great progress. I'm going to give you a very, very quick example about something that we've recently done. We want to leverage this customer journey mapping concept for our customer programs, and I think the previous presentation referred to some of the rebates we have out there. We're increasing some of the rebates. We're adding rebates, such as the used EV rebate. And so we want to make sure that as we do all this wonderful, do these wonderful things, our customers have an easy time getting those rebates. We want to make it a win-win. We want, customers are doing their part, and we want to reward them.
Just a comment, in terms of even the things like the energy efficiency rebates, and similarly in the urban water management plan, water conservation is a key factor. Our ability to make these programs easy for our customers and accessible is critical to our plan. So we submit the IRP to the state. We have a certain amount of energy efficiency built into that plan. So we only accomplish that by our interaction with our customers and them being successful, because it's certainly a partnership. It's not something that we do ourselves. It's something that we rely on our customers to do. And so making this process simple for them is key to our success as well.
Yeah, thank you. Now, improving our customer programs is pretty simple. Customers want us to provide realistic expectations up front and meet them. So the customer experience varies significantly from one program to another. Customers currently may apply for a program and not hear back from our partners or from us for several weeks. We have limited and inconsistent data available across our programs, and we need to improve the customer experience through more consistent application of the process. So let's look at one. We have a customer program focus on leak detection. We have a leak detection group where in the past, well, currently what we were doing is we're looking at customer analytics to determine, based on customer usage, what was an anomaly to a customer's typical usage. And by determining what a potential customer leak would be, we'd go out to their location and we'd knock on the door and say, hey, we think you have a leak. And again, we put a top-notch team together because we were identifying leaks, but what was that customer experience? So we employed the workshop approach. We deconstructed and reconstructed the entire customer experience for our leak detection efforts. We didn't want to be an enforcement agency. We wanted to partner with customers and help them find solutions. So we crafted an action plan and we created some enhancements. We increased our proactive communication. We improved the customer tools, such as a new inspection checklist. We improved our efforts to close the loop. We deliver to our customers a final home survey report in a very easy-to-read, clear, and concise way with observations and recommendations. And we send them a thank you note. So beginning in August 9th, 2018, our leak detection program has transitioned towards a more focused approach on reaching potential leak customers. We started using the data through email blasts and inviting them to respond for a personalized leak detection, water conservation home survey. Since then, we've sent 5 email blasts. We've reached 1,225 customers. We've received 176 customer responses. We scheduled 114 home surveys, and we've completed 91 home surveys to our customers. We've gotten some verbatims back. I'll just read you a couple. The reps coming to the house reported was very favorable. They were very professional and punctual. They gave us great recommendations. Another one said, the LADWP reputation has been raised, in my opinion, as a result. So in conclusion, we are now working again on 25 different customer journeys across the department. Imagine these teams with the same dogged determination to make our customers' journey better. Imagine those same teams building cross-functional relationships with each other across the department. As our efforts across the department continue to expand, the expertise of our internal participants grow, and new customer types are engaged. Imagine all of us making a customer journey better together. So where do we go from here? Where will our journey take us? The key to our going forward success will be continuing to apply the disciplined framework to each valuable customer experience. This is very important that we keep the structured framework in making sure this is successful. It's important to continue to connect customer journey management efforts to our overall strategic plan, specifically where we focus intently on operating within the customer-first mindset. So thank you very much for your time today, and Marty and I would like to take any questions you may have.
Commissioner Barad.
Thank you. Well, first, I have to thank you for getting rid of chutes and ladders. It was really difficult to follow. But I wanted to ask you about the past experience. When you started all this, what did you notice about experiences in the past with your staff and with the community that you wanted to make sure didn't happen again? You know, what didn't work that you used to base your...
I'll start with the staff part and let Sharon talk about the community. So you may recall the last time we were here, we showed you a slide that you all hated. It was very busy. It was a laundry list of fine print and had bubbles and kind of a workflow. And the slide was not meant for public consumption. That was the one question. It was really a map of what happens internally.
Yeah.
And it is that complicated. We're a very big organization, and people have very specific roles, and there's a lot of handing off. And so one of the things that was really key when we got everyone together internally was for everybody to really understand the handoff process and the sticking points, and to where things weren't really transmitting from office to office or job to job, or if somebody threw it over the cubicle wall to the next side, the presumption that someone's going to pick it up and run with it. And so it made it very difficult to respond to our customers about where things were, because a lot of times somebody who had it would no longer have that in their possession. So I think from a staff standpoint, the kind of frustrations our customers felt was often felt among staff too, because they don't like when they can't respond. They don't like when they don't have an answer for someone. And you know, the worst thing in the world is to be the guy who gets the customer after they said you're the fifth person I talked to, and they're passing me from person to person, and you're frustrated and you want to be able to give an answer. So I think from our staff standpoint, the folks that are trying to do their job also are relieved that this is streamlining and better understanding of the process across the board, and a chance to fix it, because everybody wants to do the best job they can. They don't want to be part of an inefficient process. So I think that what we're trying to do for our customers is also helping us tremendously internally, and in terms of job satisfaction and the sense that you're contributing to something good here, as opposed to working in a kind of a squirrel cage process otherwise. So what do you think about the customer?
And I think that on the customer side, what we found, one of the common threads on all of these different initiatives that we're working on, we are not good at closing the loop with our customers. So that's why we're implementing surveys and thank you notes and reports, and we give customers checklists, and they can find links on our website where they can check on their status, because that is the really common thread. We do not close the loop with our customers.
Right.
The second part was that I wanted to ask was, you mentioned that you've made great progress. So how are you testing that? How do you know you're making great progress?
So some of the ways are what I just threw out a couple numbers here. We track how many emails we go out, how many emails go out, how many responses we get, how many surveys we do. We also do customer satisfaction surveys, we do transaction surveys, and we also do just overall satisfaction surveys. So it's a combination of operational metrics. Are we making, how many customers clicked on the link to find out the status of their project? How many customers have utilized the checklist? So we take it internally, we check those metrics, but externally we keep checking back with our customers to make sure we really solved the issue.
And how soon after the event takes place, how soon after do you check in with the customer to see what their satisfaction is?
Sometimes it's immediate. Sometimes, just a great example is we've created a survey for Marty. He's going to speak tomorrow at the BIA, and we've actually created a survey right then and there for customers to either click on or take a survey there to find out what was your reaction, what do you think can be improved.
Uh-oh, we're in trouble.
And so sometimes it's immediately after the transaction. Sometimes, though, it's a quarterly event where we just call after the fact, after they've thought about it. Maybe they've had additional interactions. So we don't want to
maybe they've forgotten.
Maybe they've forgotten.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, because I know when I got my car, I took my car in for service because every time you turn the wheel or go uphill, I keep thinking people are throwing rocks at the car. There's some noise. So I took it in, I brought it back, it makes the same noise. Well, they called me right away. Were you satisfied? No, it still makes that noise. And so I was very glad that they called me right away, because I think that then you know what the problem is. You don't have to, you don't have to remember what happened. It's very fresh in your memory. And I was able to say, no, I still hear that same noise.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so I think you need to do it quickly.
So thank you, I appreciate your providing the initial presentations, or the other two presentations that you've made on this subject matter. I mean, as we discussed, I mean, when I think about this, I think about it from the perspective of, we have different categories of customers, right? And you talked about how the customer experience and how many people they call, et cetera, et cetera. And as we continue to sort of evolve in terms of how people have integrated technology into their lives, often the best customer experience is one where they don't have to talk to anybody. I mean, you're kind of in a world now where you click on something and something happens, and or you dial through automated processes and you schedule. And I mean, even emails are becoming sort of the less preferred method of communication. I picked up my phone this morning and I had a text reminding me to go vote, in addition to the 25 emails. but I looked at it, I was like, wow, a text, go vote. And so when I think about this, and again, I haven't, I recognize that you talked about sort of on stage and behind the curtain, and as a customer, I'm looking at the stage more than what's going on behind the curtain. And when I look at the stage, I just think, you don't care much about me, because I go to our website and I just want to barf. It doesn't give me much of anything that I can use to conduct the business that I'm used to conducting. And the last thing I want to do is call you. And beyond that, the absolute last thing I want to do is to have to go someplace. Now, I assume that we have, as an individual customer, I assume we have business customers that are very interested in sort of a consultation, and so I'm curious about how we are going about creating the various platforms that that actually translate whatever we're doing behind the stage into something that our customers can experience and access easily, sort of at their first point of contact. And beginning with, sort of our website, most entities now have apps that you just download, and you can conduct a ton of your business that way. In fact, it seems to me that if we are looking at how we significantly overhaul the customer experience, it's got to not only include all of the things that we're doing from a behind-the-scenes business process perspective, but also from a how are we interfacing with our customer in a way that mirrors the experience that they've come to expect in every other environment that they're working in. And I'm concerned that because our customers don't have options, they got to deal with us, that perhaps we are underinvesting in that customer interface aspect of it. And the bulk of our customers do not want to talk to us. They want to just schedule or tell or hear, and they want a text back or an email or something that says okay, and they want to be able to click onto a link and track this, that, or third thing. And so where are we on that?
So your point's very well taken. We have made a couple changes on the website in terms of trying to make it simple that when you...
We need to trash our website and redo it.
Well,
we are well beyond a couple of changes.
Yes, well...
No, that's and, sure.
I was going to say, and Sharon can talk about the website, but we have tried to make a few changes, so especially to make it a little more plain English and follow the path. The one thing I will say that in terms of doing apps and this and that, before we put something out facing the customer, we have to make sure that on the back end we're able to handle it. And so a lot of this process is still, we still have manual processes, still have people who have to respond to something or type something or see an email or know where something's at. So we can work on the customer-facing part, but we have to make sure that we have the people who are going to be receiving those messages coming in, that they go somewhere. Yeah. And so that's a little bit bigger technology.
No, I understand that. I do understand that it's bigger than technology, but again, I'm just kind of interested in if we're really seriously talking about a customer-first approach. I mean, we know how to build things, and we do that really well, and we just had this, presentation, however, brief it was on the strategic long-range plan that we're making, and we're beating our targets everywhere as it relates to, some pretty complex systems. And so when I think about the customer piece of this, it is also a disciplined system that requires significant innovation and a commitment to real process change, both internal and external. And I'm curious about the degree to which we're actually committed to that and committing the resources to achieve that in a reasonable amount of time. And I don't see that. I don't see evidence of that, and I didn't hear that in this presentation. What I heard was we're doing a lot of work, and people are talking to each other, and we're changing this, and we're changing that, and that's all lovely. But, we've got a lot to get accomplished. There are lots of examples of this. I mean, there are businesses whose entire, sort of future depends on their ability to upgrade, innovate, and interact with their customers in a way that their customers feel good about them. That may not be how we see our business, but there is a lot to be gained by modernizing and both from an internal and external perspective. There's also probably a lot to be saved from a resource management perspective were we to do this. And so what I'd be interested in understanding is, what is our time frame? What do we intend to achieve, and by when? And what resources are we devoting to do that?
Well, I don't have those answers for you right now, and that's certainly where we need to go. I have no doubt about that. The biggest focus we've been doing right now is trying to...
Do you think you could have an answer for me by, this is November, by January?
Certainly, yes. But the bulk of the effort right now has been to try to improve and hone the process itself, and to capture the data so we knew where so if we do have the answers, we can populate a database,
so
and then they can be reached.
How long have you been doing this?
A year, maybe.
A couple years.
A couple years.
Working on the processes themselves.
Okay, so, again, I like to deal with outcomes, and for me, it would be really critically important to understand what our actual sort of end game is. What are we planning to achieve? And not just from an internal processing perspective or how we're going, but what are we planning to achieve as it relates to the customer experience with this organization, and by when we plan to have completed that process, and looking at it not just from an internal but also from a customer-facing perspective, and actually thinking about what innovation and what technology needs to also, what does a modern customer experience look like, and how is that supported, and how do we get from here to there with something that we can actually hold ourselves accountable to, so that 2 years from now we're having a conversation that's different. And I would hope we'd be having a conversation that's different in less than 2 years, but certainly we're having a different conversation. And it shouldn't take, in my mind, more than a couple of months for that to be laid out with some level of detail that makes sense to at least me. Thanks.
Okay.
Can I add a few things?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I want to say that I was pleased to see at least a little bit of the change of direction on the presentation, so I appreciate that. However, I think that the storytelling and the style shouldn't surpass the actual content of the presentation. So in the future, I would like to see some of the examples of customers that we have taken through this journey. You said 75. And I want to see how their lives have changed or be better, or have they changed the perception of DWP. I think that would be helpful to me. So I like to start with a few positive things. I definitely resonate with the idea of innovation and taking this to another place that is actually customer driven and not DWP thinking is customer driven. That's important for us to own. I've seen a lot of, especially when the power outages and the heat wave, I saw a lot of utilization of Twitter. And I think that I found that to be very effective, and I think that that's the closest we have to an app, sadly, and as crazy as this might sound. Simply because it's very one-on-one customer. We haven't gone to an app or such yet, and you will take us through the answer at some point. I kind of know, but I don't want to take it away from you. So I think that utilizing social media, I think, has been, in my opinion, very effective. I see that we post, we don't have electrical power here, and people are retweeting and complaining and not complaining and all that, and I think that's all helpful. So I wanted to mention that that's really good, and you should keep it up, and you should expand it to other places. I know you do it mostly in Twitter, but what about Facebook, and for the younger crowd, even, Instagram? One of the things that I want to ask is, and I have done this myself with customers on my own, when I call DWP to the 1-800 number, those folks that answer, where are they?
Physically?
Yeah.
There's 2 different call centers, one on the 6th floor of this building and one in Chatsworth.
Okay, excellent. And how are they getting training in terms of current answering questions that might be changing rapidly, here in this building? And I tell you why. A customer that came here, that have come to speak to me a couple of times, she did the turf. She participated on taking the turf, our program. She got sued in a small business court because she was not a contractor. And when she called DWP, they said, you don't need to be a contractor. You can be, you can provide this type of service to customers that want to hire you. She had a really nice calling, and nature was her love, and she decided to do that. So she came to see me in my office hours, and she said, thank you, and I said, but all I want, I already went through the small court. I have to pay $5,000. Basically, these people didn't pay me anything. I have to pay them for fixing their beautiful garden. And I said, all I want is for DWP, when other people call, for them to really give out the right information. So I said, well, let's call and see. So her and I call. And indeed, the person that responded said, you don't need to be a contractor. You can just do it. And I said, don't worry, we're going to figure this out. And the reason why I'm bringing this example is because I want to know in these calling centers how current these changes and how much people are trained or have information. I think this is important. Another friend of mine was changing homes, and they told her that she needed to pay for an Expedium credit check. And she felt very uncomfortable about that. And that's when she said, you got to do something. Expedia just scam a bunch of people. Their accounts are out there in the world. And I said, there's no way we do that. So I called, and I said, I'm moving, because I was moving then. And they also asked me to do that. So she called again, and then she got somebody else, and they got her to. All I'm saying, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm giving you these examples as opportunities. This, for me, is an opportunity to do better and to change. And so my point is, how are we training people? Are we training people? How are we, how is everybody has the same information? So One day I call and I get this PDM, go pay your $25, and the next day I call and I don't, because I don't think that's good. I think that breaks the trust between us and the customers. I leave you with that. The other thing about, I want to talk about equity metrics and using this lens as a customer service, utilizing this as a customer service tool. Simply because a lot of my people that look like me, maybe that rent, they won't be going to the busy DWP website. They, in fact, probably don't even have computers, some of them. A lot of our customers come here to pay their bill because they don't even know. I can tell you because I have got myself into the community where I have taken people and show them myself through my phone what the DWP. Some people don't use that. I'm not saying that that's the majority of our customers, but we have to also think about those folks. We call the 1-800 number and we can speak in Spanish. Excellent, thank you for that. But I think we have to make it in a way also that people that have little technology or not access to a computer or don't know how to navigate the website can also be in touch with us when they don't have and these are the folks, this is where the equity metrics come in useful. These are the folks that experience the most outages. These are the folks in South LA and East LA. And here they are feeling they don't even know where to call, they don't know what to do. And so there's a lot of theories out there. Some new organizations are using WhatsApp. I mean, you name. All I want to put is this seed, because we need to get off these chairs and really feel what's people feeling out there so that we can really best serve our customers. Our customers are not sitting in a computer every day. Some of them are, but some people not. So all I wanted to say is that let's not leave the equity metrics behind. This is an incredible, innovative tool that we have to serve folks in the valley, to work with the neighborhood councils. You know how many people I went and tweeted when the power outages? I tweeted in Spanish, and so many people asked me, "Where are the cooling centers?" I know that has nothing to do with us, but I kind of found out, and I was like, the cooling center in Isla is here, in other languages. So we have such a diverse community here, and a set of customers. We have to think about all of our customers when we think about this. Thank you.
Well, you've heard from all of my colleagues that this is an issue that really hits home. And every one of us in our day-to-day lives and experience run into really unhappy customers. So on the one hand, I salute you for the effort, which is critically important and where I believe progress is being made. But on the other hand, I pretty much associate myself with the remarks that all of my former fellow commissioners have made. I particularly like Commissioner McLean-Hill's focus on upgrading the system and making it much more user-friendly. I am useless with technology and computers and apps and stuff like that, but I'm in an increasingly small minority, and the way people are increasingly interacting with the world is pretty well described by Commissioner McLean-Hill, and I think dealing with all of that is really an urgent priority. Marty, you know that, I mean, in light of the thousands of conversations we've had about frustrated customers, it's unusual for me if I go a couple of weeks without running into an unhappy customer. It's better. It's not the billing system where it was a matter of minutes. But it's still nonstop, just nonstop. The two areas where I hear the greatest unhappiness are two areas which I guess you haven't yet gone into in terms of the journey. One is start service, and the other is solar. I won't bore you with the specifics, but repeatedly I hear from both residential and commercial customers that just getting service and the hassle you have to go through, particularly for commercial and developer customers, what they go through and waiting and not knowing the next person and getting conflicting information. And I know we're working on it, but we don't seem to have dented the enormous frustration that exists out there. And as Commissioner McLean-Hill indicated, people have no choice but to deal with us, and that makes them all the angrier. They feel, here we are, a monopoly, and we don't have the incentive to fix it because we have no competition. I've heard that from dozens of people, and it's out there. So, I mean, I'm really, really glad you're on it. I'm glad what you're doing. You're doing what you're doing. One other unfortunate experience I have had, I have another house, and it's served by Edison. They're miles ahead of us on all this stuff, miles and miles ahead of us. I don't understand why that needs to be. One specific question, and we have discussed this, and I've discussed this with Dave, is progress towards smart meters. I know there are all kinds of obstacles, and the size of our utility makes it slow, but I would think if we were able to do some kind of a breakthrough, even if it involved hiring more people, in getting smart meters out there, it would alleviate a lot of these residential issues at least. But there's just frustration, and it's built up, and it's there, and we all hear it. And so those are my disorganized thoughts on the subject. You feel free to respond to any part of it or none of it.
No, I hear you loud and clear.
What, Marty?
I heard you loud and clear.
Yeah, I know you have and you do. Any other comments, questions, thoughts, suggestions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 8B, we just did. Filed items. 9A, Office of the CAO, September 2018.
The report is in your packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Power System, July, August, and September.
Yes, there are a total of 5 reports in your packet.
Yes.
Power
right.
system report as well as the renewable portfolio standard, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Quarterly status report on water quality regulatory compliance projects, first quarter, July to September 18.
Ditto.
Any questions? Approval of the minutes from the board meeting of October 16th. Those present were Commissioners McLean-Hill, Noonan, Vasquez, and me. So the 3 of us from that meeting are still here. Is there a motion to approve? I so move. Is there a second? Those in favor? Aye. They're approved.
I abstain. I wasn't.
Right. You're allowed to vote on these minutes, though, and hopefully all of the minutes thereafter for the foreseeable future. Item 14.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ann Santilli, Interim Chief Financial Officer. Item 14 is a request to use regulatory asset accounting and capitalize $52.7 million of costs as they relate to the Department's readiness for the Jones class action settlement. Back in July of 2016, the board approved a resolution authorizing regulatory accounting treatment, but it said every year come back and tell us how much you plan to capitalize. Last year, we did approximately $41.1 million, and that was for fiscal year 16 and 17 combined. And our total estimate when we came to you for the first time, we said it would be approximately $300 million. This year, we have estimated 52.7 million. 48% of that is CCB stabilization costs. This is professional services, contracts with Oracle and other vendors. 46% is billing, metering, and metrics labor. This is employees who spent time that they wouldn't have to spend if we weren't complying with this class action lawsuit. And then 6% is administrator and legal fees, which we've capitalized and recorded in our work orders. And we have shared all this information with the Office of Public Accountability. There was an additional $24.4 million of customer service and field investigation charges. But after looking at the budgets, looking at the metrics work we had, we decided we weren't going to try to move forward with that dollar amount. We had originally come up with $77.1 million. One of the other questions, and the ratepayer advocate has submitted their report, is on regulatory assets, how much should the department have? Based on our current, we're trying to close the books for 2018. Assuming this item is approved, we would have 10.7% of our assets would be regulatory assets. 1.6% is our balancing account. So in our water and power rate ordinances, there's always a true-up mechanism. We estimate our expenses, we estimate our water and power sales, and we actually have a lot of conservation going on, so we do have a receivable set up that will be recovered over the next 12 months. 4.8% of that amount is our pension and retiree benefits. None of this has been funded with debt, but it is a liability on our books, and so the offsetting would either be a reduction to our equity or the regulatory asset to notify the financial statement reader that we're going to recover that in the future. There's also a 1.8% of legal settlements. Using a regulatory asset allows us to recover this cost over a period greater than 1 year, and that's the case with the Bearcat lawsuit. We had, I think it was $160 million of costs that had accumulated. It was a settlement, and we've been recovering that $16 million a year over the last few years. And then the other part is there may be third-party money that comes in that offsets the cost before we have to take that to the customer. So if we put it as a regulatory asset and then we receive money back, only the difference would have to be recovered through rates. And then the remaining 3.5%, this is conservation and other programs. There's been a lot of discussion about energy efficiency today. That is a regulatory asset item. What we do is we use bond money for that, and we look at the measures, if it's going to be a solar program or if it's going to be a high-efficient clothes washer. We look at what's the life of that asset, and then the rebates paid for those, we take that over the life, because as long as those items are in place, it is helping offset our load. So the customers do have a longer-term benefit than 1 year. A more conservative approach would be to expense those items immediately, but that would be recovered through rates immediately as well. So on an annual basis, our energy efficiency budget's about $175 million. That would mean recovering that amount of money if we wanted to keep the rebates spend at that level immediately from customers instead of over a 15-year period. So today, what we are requesting is approval for the regulatory asset. We won't put this in rates right now, but as we finish up the class action lawsuit and determine any final amount that still needs to be recovered, we would come back to the board. And right now, we're estimated to recover that over a 10-year period based on the original resolution that was approved.
Before asking my colleagues for their thoughts and comments, I know the ratepayer advocate has some thoughts about this.
For clarity, just to repeat, Anna said this, but I wanted to make sure it's absolutely clear. These items were not included in rates when we did the rate case in 2016. The regulatory asset related to the customer care and billing activity was added as a regulatory asset. This regulatory asset, once the accumulation process is complete, will be recovered over a period of 10 years, and it will go into a component of the rates that's updated at least annually. So it will ultimately appear in the rates without a separate rate action. We've looked at these to make sure there was not double counting. That is, they're not included in rates previously. And we support the addition of the 52 million proposed by financial services. However, I think it's important to keep track of regulatory assets overall, because economic times don't get much better than we're having right now. So it is collecting this money in a tougher time will be tougher. And so we have to be cognizant of amounts we're accumulating in all regulatory assets and try to manage the total level. Because we're going to be collecting them on rates later, and the times may not be as good as they are now. And we proposed a limit. We think it's good that the board see accumulated total, like Ann had on our last slide. The totals back one slide, I think.
Yeah.
Not that slide.
I'll let Reggie drive. This one.
So we were able to understand the components and try to see year to year what's growing and making sure we're staying within reasonable limits.
Good.
Ann?
Thank you.
Excuse me, can you just kind of, I know the life of the regulatory asset, it changes based on how long we think it's really going to, should be paid off over. Can you just kind of tell the board how long some of those are out there for? Because we just approved the retirement one last meeting.
The retirement is in two pieces. The pension portion had a 15-year life, and that was adopted in 2015, so that has about another 12 years. The retiree medical one, that one we just approved now, and that one has a little bit longer life. That has 18 years, and that's tied to the last actuarial report. Legal settlements, we started collecting the Bearcat settlement about 4 years ago, so it has another 6 or so years on that one. We haven't done anything with the CCB regulatory asset one. With the conservation programs, it's a rolling 15 years for the most part. Conservation and other also includes stormwater capture that has a 20 to 50 year life based on what we spend the money on, and that's only 0.1% of our regulatory assets. And then the other one is like solar rebates. That had a 15-year life, and that started about in 2012, so that has about 9 years left.
No, thank you. I appreciate the presentation, and as I am gaining a better understanding of this process and this way of characterizing certain assets so that we can kind of defer and capture them later or down the road. I'm particularly interested in the conservation programs and other. It's, the legal settlements, the pensions, those are sort of tied to things that, are pretty well defined. Whereas I suspect that as we look more at conservation programs, that we're starting to push the envelope a little with respect to that particular category. And so two things. I am very interested in continuing to monitor and in particular to understand from a cumulative perspective not only how much we have, but also in particular keeping an eye on the conservation programs. And would be interested at some later date in understanding our utilization of this device as benchmarked against other similarly situated organizations. Just curious about what that looks like. With respect to recommendation number 2, I know that you've been working, the OPA's recommendation number 2, I know that you guys have been working closely together throughout on this. So I would assume that that is a recommendation that will be accommodated, that doesn't actually require board action. Is that something that we can count on?
I believe that's true. The one thing I would say, if for any reason we thought we were going to use regulatory treatment, I wouldn't want a division to start accumulating a lot of costs and then come back to you. So I would try to get that pre-approval for you. We did try to bring this item with the other two at the last board meeting, but we still wanted to take time to review the metrics and the dollar spend, so without holding up everything else, that's why we asked this one to be deferred.
This was a very cooperative effort.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Barad.
Thank you. I want to go back over something that Fred said, that this would not be included, this was not included in the rate increase of 2016, but will appear in rates without requiring separate action. I think we need to really parse that a little bit. When you talk about it will appear in rates.
The first step of that process was creating the regulatory asset back in 2016. That's where this account was created with the intention to add it to a portion of what's called the VEA rate adder.
What does that mean?
It's the variable energy adjustment, but it's where litigation related expenses and other regulatory assets are put into rates. And I don't know, I'd want to check back to the original resolution whether or not board action is required to start the pay down of the regulatory asset.
Actually, every time we have a regulatory asset, if the board gives us approval, it's a two-step process. Give us approval to accumulate the cost, and then we come back to you to say, now we're going to put it into the rates, and here's the dollar amount.
Okay.
So it wouldn't go into rates without your approval.
So was that part of that original? Is that what you're saying? Was that part of the original action that we knew about and voted on? This would be at a later date?
Yes, these costs would be at a later date put into rates.
And how do you determine those rates?
But an important part of the approval was we would have to look at these piece by piece each year and approve these. We thought, for example, as Ann said, this was reduced from 77 to 52 million in our discussions about whether the costs were appropriately in the group. And these costs are what's appropriate to put into rates. These shouldn't be treated as some measure of harm in the CCB effort. That's a different calculation. So,
CTB?
I'm sorry, customer care and billing.
Thank you.
A measure of harm in terms of what's occurred in the problems of that process. This is a separate accumulation because it looks at things that are not already captured in rates.
All right, so there's some kind of formula that you're going to use at some point, and then we're going to ask our ratepayers, we're going to ask for an increase in rates?
It'll be included, the first step,
First step would be to finalize the dollar amount less any money we got back from a legal settlement. Bring that to you. We usually recommend on legal settlements 10 years to recover that, and then that 10 years, each annual amount divided by the kilowatt hours we're going to sell, which right now is about 23,000 gigawatt hours. So on a cents per kilowatt hour basis, it's not a lot of money, but this would be one cost that's going into that pass-through adjustment factor.
So when would you anticipate that we would ask for a rate increase based on this?
I would turn around and say, what's the forecast of when the various litigation relating to billing will settle? The part of the reason you use regulatory assets is there's a lot of uncertainty as to the dollar amount and the timing. So that's why it was put into a regulatory asset in the first place. You don't know when, you don't know how much.
All right, so, okay, using your terminology then, what is your forecast?
I would turn to the city attorney and ask.
I would say with the elements that we're considering right now, it's too early to determine. We have more monitor with respect to the Jones class action bill and lawsuits, and so those are all ongoing things, and they're progressing, but we aren't able to determine at this point when they'll be resolved.
So it sounds like we're out in the community again, talking about a rate increase.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, I want to clarify. The existing rates allow for this to be included when we address typically something like the ECAF. When the ECAF comes forward, it includes a component that allows these costs to be included in it on something that's addressed depending on the factor, semi-annually or annually. So it will be, there are 2 steps for the board on this.
Correct. The first one will be finalizing the cost, bringing it back to you, saying the net amount to be recovered through rates, if anything. And here's the amortization period, 10 years probably. And this would be how much of a cent per kilowatt hour. And this is a water and power benefit. So it would also be part of the water bill as well.
And it goes into our quarterly or semi-annual rate adjustment factor that we aren't out asking the community for a rate increase for this specific item. So we're accumulating that, and then when the lawsuit settles a number of years in the future, this will be included in what we go after for recovery.
Okay, I'm just sitting here thinking, how do we sell this one?
In a sense, it's already been sold in that it's in the formula. It's like natural gas costs for fuel and things like that. It's something that gets included in the ECAF or purchase water factors on a quarterly or annual basis, depending on the factor.
Sorry. Very sorry. You're still.
I'm finished, I think.
I have just a clarifying question for whoever can answer that. It appears here that we have this this chunk of money that it comes from a settlement cost for our billing issue that we had. Is this correct?
Well, this is the cost that we've incurred to date to settle do our part as part of the Jones class action lawsuit.
Right. So there was a class action. We had to respond to the class action because of our billing. Right. So it appears, and please correct me if I'm wrong, and please do correct me, that now this regulatory asset will return for the maybe a future or not increase rate increase, where we're basically are asking our customers to we're putting this dollar amount back so that eventually would be paid off, and it seems to me like we're putting it back to the very people that we're paying for to begin with.
As a municipal utility, we don't have stockholders to pick up this cost. We have customers, and we have the ability to offset our bonds. So any business has legal expenses, and this would be one for the department, and we would try to net it against any settlement we could get.
So we had an implementation where the implementer failed. We have costs that have come out of that, and we have to address resolving customer billing issues right now. But we're putting it in this regulatory asset so that we can accumulate that as part of what we go after the implementer, so that we can recover the money and pay it back to our ratepayers, because right now they're incurring costs because of a third-party failed effort. So it is being, the customers are the customers are bearing those costs, whether or not it's in this regulatory asset. But by putting it in here, it helps us frame that and account for that so that we can include it when we go after that settlement effort.
And I think and I'm looking forward to hear what you have to say, Dr. Pico. From a financial standpoint, as a utility, as a let's call it company, from a financial standpoint, it makes sense. But also, I'm conflicted with the idea that we made a mistake, and I get that this institution had, we all have our failures, and that's life. But I'm a little conflicted with the idea that this is going to return back to the very people that was affected, and that in the long run, they're going to be the ones that are going to have to bear the cost. So I understand that this is what we have to do, and this is why I'm asking this question, because I'm really looking for all of you to tell me, no, this isn't that way, but it doesn't appear that it's going to be that way. And we have a utility that needs to function, but...
Except that I think the point that they're making is that regardless, that just based on how our revenues are generated, that whatever we do, the customer is always paying for it. And I think that the real impact of this device is how we carry these costs or these on our books. And it's being packaged this way because it's interesting from the legal piece of it. There's at least as we amortize it, there's at least some expectation that we can point to as to how the costs will be recovered, which is why I keep looking at the conservation programs where that's a little more nebulous. But what this entire package does is it moves this off, it moves it off our books in a way that we're not accounting for it from a debt perspective right now. And it keeps, so it doesn't impact or isn't being captured as we look at, for instance, our borrowing margins and things of, this is really a bookkeeping item,
It's
correct?
more of a bookkeeping, but it also doesn't run through our income statement as expense right now.
Well,
it's
that's
being
exactly,
held
so
until we
essentially,
can net it.
exactly, so it's essentially what it's doing is it's sort of characterizing our expenses in a way that allows us to, that doesn't impact how we borrow. And so it essentially allows us to, or it has the potential of potentially disguising long-term debt that could come back to bite us, which is why I think Dr. Pickle continues to point to it. Should the economy shift, and we have to go back and grab this. There's, if we're wrong about certain assumptions, or if there's a change in the economy in some dramatic way, that this could have future implications for rates that would be negative to our customers.
Correct.
That's really kind of but that's more of a strategic issue with respect to the use of both regulatory assets and then what we use them for, like what we characterize or what we package in that system, right?
That's correct.
There are two litigation uncertainties here. One is how will the class actions against DWP regarding the billing system, how much are they going to cost, and how long will that play out? And the second litigation uncertainty is the lawsuit against the implementer of the computer system and what damages might be recovered. And the timing of both those things and the quantities of both those things are uncertain.
Okay. Other questions, other comments?
I'm move passage of, what is this, item 14.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's approved. Thank you very much. Okay, we have 2 items left. One is item 31, for which Commissioner Vasquez will need to be recused. But before that, we're at item 30, which is a grievance, an appeal from the Personnel Committee's recommendation that the grievance be denied. The grievant, Mr. Sahadinia, I believe is here, and has been granted 10 minutes, which was what he requested to make his case. So, Mr. Sahadinia, the podium is yours.
Thank you. I would like to thank commissioners.
Pull the mic.
Microphone.
Pull the mic down a little so that you're speaking right into it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I am Bijan Sajadinia. I would like to thank the commissioners and the management for the opportunity to present my grievance. Let me start with a quote by a former LADWP senior manager addressing the prospective job applicants to LADWP and the city. Beginning of the quote. They, referring to employer, are looking for young, energetic, hungry, curious, and friendly person. This is LADWP manager talking about to job applicants. They don't want a 55-year-old individual who is tired, set in their ways, already established, difficult to deal with, doesn't have any new idea, and argue against most proposal. End of the quote. For other age discriminatory quotes, statements, and practices by LADWP management, please see Exhibit 1001, 1002, 1003, and 1004. And you have all these documents. I send it to the board. And also slides 19 through 26. The age and gender discriminatory statements by LADWP senior managers clearly show the management's mindset that has influenced the LADWP employee selections. Let me introduce myself. I have served LADWP for 18 years in a variety of assignments in power engineering and information technology. In addition, I have 10 years of engineering project management and extensive supervisory experience in the private sector. I hold a bachelor and a master's degree from UCLA. I am a professional electrical engineer, a certified project management professional, and a certified owner representative professional for providing oversight to major capital contracts. I have consistently been on or near the top of the list of civil service interviews and exams I have ever taken. I have been selected by the management and performed as an electrical engineer under Article 33. I have received raving reviews on my performance, decisions, and leadership. I have not ever received any complaint or disciplinary action. Despite all these facts, I have been rejected for over 29 electrical engineering positions in 2017. After I filed a grievance and met with Commissioner Noonan and Commissioner Vasquez, I have been retaliated against in various manners, including that management rejected me for 17 new electrical engineer positions and 4 electrical engineering associate 3 positions. In fact, 4 of those electrical engineering positions have been in my own sections. Actually, 4 electrical engineering positions and 1 EEA 3 positions have been in my own sections that where I work, PSIAT. Most of these promotional opportunities were given to younger employees with less experience. Contrary to recommendations made by Commissioner Noonan and Vasquez, it is quite clear that management doesn't want the experienced and seasoned employee to stay and impart their acquired experience, knowledge, and skills to employees with less experience. Honorable Commissioner, I have invested many years proudly and gratefully contributing to bringing reliable power and safe water to the citizens of Los Angeles. I have a long list of contributions to the department. I am capable and qualified by my education, training, and experience to lead as an electrical engineer, but I do not apologize for my age. I cannot. Honorable Commissioner, experienced employees do not deserve to be humiliated and harassed to leave the department. Honorable Commissioner and management, please stop and reverse the shameful and unfair age discrimination and harassment at LADWP. And thank you for your time, but it was very interesting that just accidentally Ms. Ann Santelli presented some of the financial matter that DWP had to absorb as part of the legal settlement, class action lawsuits, and contractual liability that we ran with Price Waterhouse. In 2012, today is 2018, 6 years ago, I wrote a written report to the management warning them that this is coming. Only management to sit on it and did not even act. I sent this report to senior managers, more than one, and I saw the written receipt because I sent it via email, but no action, no follow-up, no investigation, nothing. I really believe all these $300 million, more than $300 million, several hundred millions of dollars, as a result of customer care and billing project, could have been avoided if management did the right thing and would act right away. I didn't come here to talk about this. It just happened that there is a report at the same time, and it's just very interesting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
I have a question. Did you guys hear me correctly? I mean, all right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we heard you very clearly.
Am I very nervous and totally disoriented?
No.
These are the management's comment in my interviews. I go for an interview in the city hall, I make it to the top of the list. I go to mock interview with the management. I get positive feedback. I come here and I provide very detailed, specific recommendations. And as a subject matter expert, I'm a project management and program management professional. Give it to management in order to save the headache for the department and for the city ratepayers. They just forget it. And then I go to an interview. I lose it to guys with like 6 or 7 or 8 years of experience, 29, 30 years old. This is not fair. This is not fair. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Do you have any question for me?
No. Thank you. Commissioner Vasquez, you need to recuse yourself on item 31, and when you do, we will take it up.
Okay, should I do
So
that now?
scram.
Okay.
Commissioner, you still need to act on item 30.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Surprise.
I'm sorry. This requires
Would be the adoption of the recommendation of the Personnel Relations Committee report for this reference grievance.
Okay, is there a motion?
So I move.
Second? Those in favor? Aye.
I'm sorry, what are we voting on?
Adopting the recommendation of
Okay.
the Personnel
I
Committee.
second.
Unless can we have a discussion? I don't know.
We can,
Some
yes.
board members might want to have a discussion.
Is there
I
any
don't know.
discussion?
Mr. Counsel, if that's appropriate at this point.
It's
Well,
appropriate.
You do have the recommendation of the
Yes.
committee
Okay.
which you serve on.
Do you wish to?
No, all I can say is that I participated on the interview when he came to not only just me but Commissioner Noonan, and not just us but other members of our labor, his former supervisor. A lot of people sat on the interview, and he is claiming basis of discrimination because of age, so ageism. And at the moment when we assess the complaint and the grievance, we didn't find that his complaint was, had sufficient arguments or even proof that happened. So there are definitely a lot of things that the department need to address with its employees, and we have worked with our union labor in a lot of those, and we continue making those better. But in this particular instance, we didn't find that to be the case, that he was being discriminated against, because I think he presented to us also a series of emails just kind of talking about, in general, that we talk about young engineers and such, and not maybe more veteran seasoned engineers. So I don't know if anybody has any other questions.
Questions? Okay. So you made a motion.
Yeah.
I second. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Now you may recuse yourself. We can meet you in the other room.
Oh, okay.
Or you can come back in a minute. We'll take a second. Item 31, authorizing Commissioner Vasquez travel to Sacramento, November 27th to 29th, representing DWP at the meeting of the Mines Annual Summit. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. It's approved. Council?
At this point, we will recess in a closed session to discuss the items on the closed session agenda, and in accordance with the California Government Code Section 54957.1, we will report any reportable actions taken therein.
You've been authorized.
Oh, excellent, because I've been working on
We are in
that for a
recess.
long time now. So I hope I get to